Stapita mena bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shriyata Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So thank you for having me back. We are doing verses 13 to 15 from chapter 1 of the 11th canto. I just wanted to say I will definitely stop at 7:45 your time for your reflections and questions, because unfortunately today I won't be able to stay for the afterglow. And I do really want to hear from all of you. So I'm going to share my screen. I'll recite the Sanskrit, read the translation and the purport. Kritandastan upavrajya kumaryadu nandanana upashangriha prapachur avinita vinitavat devashayatvastriveshahi sambham jambavati sutam esha prichati vo vipra Antarvatnyashite kshanaha prashtum vilajati shakshat prabhrut amogha darshanaha prashoshyanti putra kama kim svit sanjanayishyati. Translation: To that holy place, the young boys of the Yadu dynasty had brought Samba, son of Jambavati, dressed in a woman's garb. Playfully approaching the great sages gathered there, the boys grabbed hold of the sages' feet and impudently asked them with feigned humility, "O learned Brahmins, this black-eyed pregnant woman has something to ask you. She is too embarrassed to inquire for herself. She's just about to give birth and is very desirous of having a son. Since all of you are great sages with infallible vision, please tell us whether her child will be a boy or a girl." Purport: Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati has made the following comment. The impudent behavior of the young Yadus towards the sages headed by Narad, who were all Brahmanas and devotees of the Lord, was a display of deviation from the path of Lord Krishna. Similarly, although the Prakrita Sahajas think of themselves as intimate associates of Krishna, the supremely merciful Lord's determination is perfectly correct in working to finish such false devotees. Such impostors actually never accept real service to Krishna. The Yadu Kumar's deception is termed seemingly humble, meaning that in fact they were anything but humble. Therefore, the ridiculing of Vaishnavas by the Lord's family resulted in a great offense against the devotees of the Lord. A similar incident occurred during the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when his own mother offended Sri Advaita Acharya. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally rectified this offense against a great Vaishnav, and thus the Lord showed his magnanimity. Lord Krishna's pastime of destroying the Yadu dynasty is also a demonstration of his mercy to his devotees. Believing the Brahmanas, Vaishnavas, and Rishis to be foolishly lacking knowledge in material affairs of sense gratification, the Yadu Kumars dressed Samba, the son of Jambavati, as a woman and tried to mock the saintly assembly. Lord Krishna wanted to teach that such an offense committed against great devotees by his associate Samba would be the cause of the Yadu dynasty's destruction, all as part of his Leela. In modern times, such misbehavior has also manifested itself within the Gaudiya Vaishnav community. Unauthorized persons have initiated the process of deceitfully bestowing a woman's dress on their followers. This process is to be counted as a variety of aparad or offense against Krishna. Such an attempt to cheapen and ridicule devotional service to Krishna is certainly caused by envy towards the real Vaishnavas, who are faithfully engaged in devotional service according to the rules and regulations of the Vedic literature. Thus, Rupa Goswami has said, Shruti Smriti Puranadi Pancharatra Vidhim Vina Ekantiki Hare Bhaktir Utpatayeva Kalpate. That's from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 101. If one wants to demonstrate this great devotion to the Supreme Lord, but his process of devotional service violates the standard rules of revealed scriptures, such as Shruti, Smriti, Puranas, and Narad Pancharatra, then his alleged love of Godhead will simply disturb society by misleading people from the auspicious path of spiritual advancement. The taking of a woman's clothing by a man in Krishna Lila was intended to point out this fact. Such an act amounts to cheating and ridicule of the devotees of Krishna. Samba is a personal associate of the Lord, but acting as a harbinger of the future misfortune to be created in Kali Yuga by bogus followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Samba displayed this didactic pastime to help the living entities to be blessed on the correct path of devotional service. The boys said to the sages, O Rishis, O Brahmanas, O Narad, and other great personalities, can you tell us whether it will be a son or daughter that will be born from this pregnant woman's womb? By addressing pure Vaishnavas in this way, they anticipated the fraudulent sampradayas of the modern age in their practice of Sakhi Bheka, or dressing men as female associates of the gopis. This unauthorized activity constitutes contempt and mockery of the pure devotees of the Lord. Many false yogis, imagining they are distributing first-class devotion on the liberated platform, attempt to award the status of pure devotee to candidates totally ignorant of the transcendental tastes of Madhura Rati, or the Lord's conjugal love in the spiritual world. Even though they know that the general populace is unfit to imitate the liberated associates of the Lord, they artificially decorate ordinary persons with the ornaments of spiritual perfection, such as tears, a melted heart, and the standing on end of the bodily hairs. Thus, these bogus yogis introduce a process that misleads the world. Because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu understood that the great misfortune caused by such false yogis or kuyogis was impossible to forestall in the Kali Yuga, he infected them with insane desires for material objects of lust, so that ordinary persons can easily identify false yogis as deviated from the path of pure devotional service. The mockery of the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas by the young boys of the Yadu dynasty who dressed Samba in women's garb and the resultant destruction of the Yadu dynasty conclusively demonstrate the uselessness of the Sahajya Sampradayas. Srila Jiva Goswami has confirmed that the lack of humility shown by the sons of the Yadu dynasty was an arrangement by the Lord himself. In other words, the members of the Yadu dynasty are ultimately associates of Lord Krishna, and to facilitate the instructive pastimes of the Lord, they acted in apparently unethical ways. So, there is a lot there. It's a long purport. Krishna, this whole chapter focuses on how Krishna arranges wrapping up his pastimes, his departure, and also arranging for his close associates to also depart with him. It explains, and actually, this chapter overall is describing how Krishna used the curse that comes off the back of this mockery that Samba and his friends, this mocking of the Brahmanas and Narad Muni, that how that leads to a curse, which ultimately is veiling Krishna's plan to depart himself and to arrange for the departure of his associates. But as he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or the Supreme Personality of Lovehead, he's doing many, many things and achieves many goals with just one action. And as well as creating a situation where a curse comes about, which shows and actually creates a curse where the Yadus end up destroying themselves and also leads to their departure along with him. Some of the goals that he achieves through just this one incident includes teaching us and us who are reading now, the people at the time, and future generations to come, anybody who reads about this pastime, the impact of offending and criticizing devotees. Although the purport for this verse has a lot of focus on the significance of Samba being dressed as a girl, relating to the offense of other sampradayas, particularly, well, not bona fide sampradayas, but the Sahaja movement and groups where conjugal love or pure devotional service is awarded in a very cheap way, which is probably more prevalent in India than it is in the West. Actually, a big part of this is really focusing on offending Vaishnavas. Now, when Samba and his friends approached the Brahmins and approached Narad Muni, it may seem like, oh, just some young children or some young people having a practical joke. And, what is the harm in it? The thing is, Samba and his friends were very aware of who Narad Muni is. They were very aware of the Brahmanas. They were very aware that they are great devotees of the Lord. So they knew their value. At the same time, their mocking wasn't healthy humor. It was there to ridicule. It was there to ridicule them. So there is humor is a complex. It's a complex attitude. It's a complex emotion. It's a complex interpersonal dynamic. In fact, humor is the most mature defense mechanism to develop in a human being. When you look at child development, there's so many different things as a child moves to adulthood and maturity, so-called maturity. We learn so many different ways to deal with difficult feelings. And, for example, repression, denial. And actually, as a person matures, they learn healthier things. But when we say mature, one of the more mature defense mechanisms, it's one of the later defense mechanisms, humor. If you look at comedy, most of the time, most comedy is using the ridiculing of someone or something as a way to bring some sort of truth to the surface. So in this way, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has highlighted that they're ridiculing, but in their ridicule, there's a truth in the sense that you can't give conjugal love cheaply. You cannot feign having pure devotional service by your dress, by your attitude, etc. But when we look at humor itself as a way, it can often be also used as a way to cover up an insult. So, if you look at comedy, there's some, we say people laugh at the things that are true, but people who find things funny themselves that nobody else finds funny, that often relies on some sort of ridicule. It's like a feigned criticism, a cloaked criticism. So a criticism cloaked in humor. So they were, just like it describes here, the Yadu Kumar's deception is seemingly humble, right? They're laughing on the inside. For them, it's humorous. They're using feigned humility to cloak that they're finding the whole incident funny and to cloak that what they're finding funny is their criticism and ridicule of the Brahmanas and Narodmani. Now, this is really important. Why am I focusing on this humor aspect? We hear so often that, oh, don't criticize devotees. Criticizing devotees is, the mad elephant offense. It undoes so much devotional service. It can set us back. It can freeze our bank account of spiritual credits. But for most devotees won't outright overtly criticize because we've got such a culture of not wanting to criticize and also wanting to come across as a good devotee that we will, when we are feeling critical, we will try and find ways, even where we lie to ourselves and are criticizing and don't pick up on it ourselves. And so for most devotees, you'll find that we find ourselves in positions where we end up criticizing others by way of just what seems like a general conversation, right? We will have a general conversation where we feel like we are getting, or we'll explain that we're just getting into a description of something or a person or a situation and doing some sort of comparison and contrast of a situation and a person. And before we know it, our emotions get tied up in it. And either those emotions start to get loaded with some disdain for the situation or the project or the person, or we start to, when we catch ourselves, you may even find yourself turning into a joke or laughing about it. So this is it's a really this is why I'm saying it's a really complex area because we find our ways, our mind finds ways to cover and gloss over when we are criticizing but don't want to admit we're criticizing or don't want to see it. And humor is one of them. So I'm not talking about healthy humor where friends are joking with each other and they've both got, they've given each other permission to have a dig at each other and you're both having a good laugh and at the same time there's a lot of love there and you appreciate each other very much. This is very different to what Samba and his friends are doing here. They are cloaking their criticism, they're cloaking their ridicule, they're cloaking their lack of appreciation of who they've approached with humor. So there was another point that stood out to me from this, that the same way that it's described in the purport that Krishna has used his associates to teach us both in Lord Chaitanya's pastime with his mother and in this pastime with Krishna and his son and his son's friends, that he'll use his own associates from the inside. He'll even use those people who are on the inside to destroy those people who are offensive. Okay. Of course, his associates are pure devotees, but he engages them to teach us and to set the example. In that same way, when we end up criticizing others, we'll often notice our bhakti starts to be destroyed from the inside before it even appears to be destroyed on the outside. So the seed for the curse was this incident, which happened by inside people. And that's why it ended up being that the Yadus destroyed themselves. So we end up destroying our own bhakti by engaging in criticism. Now, if we look at what devotees mean to Krishna, what does a devotee mean to Krishna? There's this very powerful verse in the 9th canto of the Bhagavatam in the 4th chapter, verse 68. And it is the conversation between Durvasha Muni and Vishnu. Durvasha Muni is running away from the Sudarshan Chakra that's been sent by Vishnu to protect Ambarish Maharaj after the Rashamuni makes offenses and tries to destroy Ambarish Maharaj. And he eventually, after 1 year, ends up going to Vishnu and saying, look, can you stop your Sudarshan Chakra? And he responds to him, the pure devotee is always in the core of my heart, always in the core of my heart. And I am always in the heart of the pure devotee. My devotees do not know anything else but me, and I do not know anything else but them. So in this way, he explains to the Rashamuni that I'm their servant. I live in them, they live in me. So actually, if any of my opulences, or if I have gone to protect my devotee, and if you hurt them, you are basically hurting me. But I'm also under their control. So the only person who can forgive you is Ambarish Maharaj himself. And so when we hurt devotees, when we criticize devotees, we directly hurt Krishna. And this has a very deep impact on the core process that actually connects us with Krishna. And that's chanting the holy names. See, everything's really very closely connected, intimately connected with the holy name. In 1722 of the Adi Lila, we we understand that Krishna is non-different to his name. We understand that actually the actual verse says, in this age of Kali, the holy name of the Lord, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, excuse me, is the incarnation of Lord Krishna. Simply by chanting the holy name, one associates with the Lord directly. Anyone who does this is certainly delivered. But in Shikshastakam, in the second verse, after the glories of, in the first verse, we hear 7 glories of the holy name, right? Amazing things about the holy name. It basically cleans everything. It shows you who you are. It shows you who Krishna is, shows you your relationship, and allows full bliss to blossom. Okay, to gets rid of all inauspiciousness, amazing things. But in text 2, we hear, "Oh my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benedictions upon the living beings. And therefore you have hundreds and millions of names, like Krishna, Govinda, etc. In these transcendental names, you have invested all of your transcendental energies. And there are no hard and fast rules for chanting these names. Oh my Lord, you have so kindly made it so easy to approach you by your holy names, but unfortunate as I am, I have no attraction for them." This attraction, this lack of attraction, it's a misfortune, and it's a misfortune that we increase when we criticize devotees. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he, in his Bhajan Rahasya, he actually elaborates on what this misfortune is. What is the block that stops us from having attraction when the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as an incarnation of the holy name? See, this is a very unique incarnation. In this age, we have 2 Yuga avatars. We have the Yuga avatar, Lord Chaitanya, a special merciful incarnation, and we have Krishna as his holy name. Now, although Krishna's name has always existed and Krishna's name is non-different to him, there's something special in Kali Yuga that he also incarnates as his holy name. I was listening to one of Sachinanda Maharaj's Karthik inspirations. I think it was either yesterday or the day before. I think it was yesterday's one. And he quotes Srila Prabhupada when Prabhupada says that what's different about chanting Krishna's name now versus all the other processes, the other 9 processes of devotional service, is that with everything else, for example, deity worship, hearing, reading, prayer, we approach Krishna. When chanting Krishna's name, especially as he is incarnated as his name, and is a prescribed process, and it's also authorized by Lord Chaitanya with no hard and fast rules. When we call Krishna's name, he approaches us. So Bhakti Vinod Thakur, in his Bhajana Rahasya, he really looks at what is this misfortune that causes us to not have attraction to Krishna's names. And he gives 4 distinct categories. Okay, one is Tattva Vibraham, which is having a weak understanding and immature understanding of spiritual principles, which leads us to become, divisive and confused about what's right or wrong. We experience like an existential emptiness because we are divisive, and we're also not so fully connected to Krishna. And these are rooted in the five types of nescience that actually are created before any living being is created. By Lord Brahma, he has to create five types of ignorance, including self-deception, illusory bodily identity, forgetting our existence, false ownership, and anger arising from frustration, and a fear of death. So these feed into this tattva vibraham. And when we make offenses against devotees, this increases. Our illusion increases because we don't chant properly. Krishna doesn't want to approach us as the holy name as much because we've hurt him by hurting his devotees. So the very same thing that we think is stopping us from chanting exists because we don't chant, or we can't chant, or we can't chant properly. This is a product of criticizing devotees. There's also asat Krishna, a thirst for the temporary, whether it's bhakti, wanting material objects, people, possessions, or position, whether we want liberation. And I don't just mean liberation into the Brahma Jyoti, but also liberation, just freedom from suffering. Or if we want siddhis, this also, it increases. This is we see this as a distraction from japa, but actually when we don't chant, that increases because chanting is the antidote. And when we criticize devotees, that increases as well. Hriday Durbalyam, weakness of the heart, which is attachment to objects unrelated to Krishna, also includes deceit, criticism, envy, desire for fame, adoration, profit, distinction. These are also things that make us unfortunate, stop us from being attracted to the name. But as we're hearing here, criticism, it weakens the heart, it weakens our mind, it weakens the subtle body, it weakens those things that need to be resilient in order for us to be able to be in a receptive heart set and mindset when we're chanting and remembering that Krishna is approaching us when we chant his name. We make space, we create distance. And last but not least, he talks about how aparad in chanting also increases everything else, criticizing devotees. How does this all come together? How does this relate to this pastime? It comes back to this point of if we see our bhakti becoming difficult externally, it didn't happen overnight. No one falls down, no one steps away overnight. It started probably a long time ago, and it started probably with offenses and primarily the offense of criticizing others. Criticizing others is a very sensitive issue. It's a sensitive area. And it doesn't just apply to when we're outright throwing verbal abuse at someone or outright speaking harsh words. It doesn't even only include when a person knows that we're criticizing them. Criticizing another devotee can be very easily cloaked with jokes and general conversation. Just because somebody else isn't picking up on what we're feeling in the heart, it doesn't mean we're not criticizing someone while we're saying it. And when we do this, as we're hearing from Bhaktivinoda Thakur, is a great source of misfortune. It stops us from being attracted to Krishna. It makes our heart weak. It means when we are calling Krishna's name, even though he is approaching us, we're putting up a wall. He feels reluctant to come to us, and we can't see him. See, Krishna is Svanishta. He's always steady in his presence. He's everywhere. Every atom and a molecule, he's in our hearts, he's in his names, he's in every place, everything rests on him. So he's Svanishta, he's always steady, he's always available. But if we are not showing up, or if when we're showing up, we're also hurting others, we're trying to show up and we're also telling him, stay away. because when we criticize devotees, we tell them to stay away. In the purport to this verse, where Krishna explains that, he lives in his devotee's heart and his devotee lives in him. In the purport, in the very last sentence, Krishna says, not Krishna, Srila Prabhupada says, even the most learned or experienced person cannot understand the movements of a Vaishnava, a pure devotee. No one, therefore, should criticize a pure Vaishnava. A Vaishnava knows his own business. Whatever he does is precisely right because he is always guided by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, throughout this verse, and even in that last sentence, the word pure, the phrase is very specific, pure devotee, because it's explaining that to the degree that someone's living in Krishna and is always thinking of Krishna, to that degree, Krishna is living in them and Krishna's also thinking of them. Our minds often use this phrase pure devotee as a reason to justify our either ridicule or could be descriptive statements as saying that it's not a criticism and it's not going to be of any harm. Sometimes we struggle with this idea of pure devotee because we ascribe, there's two ways of looking at this idea of pure devotee. Prabhupada says all devotees are pure devotees. What does he mean by this? When we look at Shraddha, there's different types of Shraddha, but Shraddha that leads to Prem is faith that Krishna is the be-all and end-all of everything. That serving Krishna, loving Krishna fulfills everything else. That's pure Shraddha, that's Shraddha. That's the actual Shraddha that leads to Prem. That's the Shraddha that Srila Prabhupada has given us. And that's the Shraddha that makes someone a pure devotee in one sense. Then it's a case of, is that pure devotee unripe, medium ripe, or fully ripe? Kanishta, Madhyam, or Uttam. Beginner, intermediate, or advanced. If we just stick with pure devotee means the Uttamadhikari, we will end up justifying a lot of misbehavior on our part. And we will find ourselves struggling with our japa, struggling with basic rules, struggling with even finding sadhusanga, let alone how to associate with devotees. So this verse has a lot more in it than it seems on the surface. On the surface, it looks descriptive. Samba came with his friends and they had a joke and ridiculed the brahmanas. And in that, what's Krishna telling us? The problem starts with you, your bhakti starts getting destroyed from the inside. If it's manifesting outside, that's a consequence. It's never from outside. It's always from the inside. And he uses his most intimate associates to show us this. Not because they have these faults, but in his service, they're willing to take whatever the role they need to so that more of us can go close to him. So we have about 10 minutes left. I'd like to hear your thoughts, your questions, your realizations. Please raise your hands. Ready?
Thank you very much, Iti Shakti Devi. I'd like to share a reflection.
Please.
When you criticize and offend devotees, you hurt Krishna directly. That is a very profound point. Thank you so much for pointing that out, Chiti Shakti. Dear devotees, please, it's your turn. Chiti Shakti and I spoke. Now you speak. Gail.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Gail.
Yeah, I'm on this same point that Ananda Bihari just brought up, and that you did also, that when we offend Krishna's devotees, then Krishna feels hurt because, just like we feel hurt, right? When somebody offends somebody that we have dear in our hearts. But when we become offended, we tend to retaliate, according to the lower modes, maybe, But when I'm just trying to see, isn't there a distinction between how Krishna, quote unquote, retaliates to the offender, and how we offend to and how we retaliate to an offender, when it concerns somebody that we hold dear.
Yeah, I mean, what we see is Krishna takes a step back when we hurt someone that's dear to him. He takes a step back. That's really what we experience, because when he takes a step back, we take a step closer to material nature. And when we take a step closer to material nature, we feel distressed because we are further away from Krishna. When we react when somebody's offensive to us, if we succumb to the lower modes, if we don't take a humble and tolerant approach, then we take an even bigger step away from Krishna and the devotees, which is why the pastime of Ambarish Maharaj is so powerful. He really teaches us that when we become unoffendable, we don't make offenses. Because as long as we remain offendable, we are vulnerable to becoming frustrated, angry, and anger bewilders the intelligence. And then we make poor choices with our words and our actions. So really, and I know this sounds oversimplistic, and people say, oh, well, I've heard this so many times, but it is profoundly true. And it is absolutely true, because Krishna says it and Krishna follows through on it. That if we chant with attention, with presence, with sincerity, not only does it show Krishna that as you approach me, I really want to be there as you're approaching me, but we're also doing the very thing that kills off and clears off the things in our heart that make us want to take a step away from him and his devotees in the first place. So we can also take Krishna's example. The same way when he or his devotees are offended, he takes a step back. We can do the same thing. If something happens where it feels like, wow, this person's really hurt me, take a step back. We can engage in corrective behavior, in corrective speech for the betterment of someone else in a way that is not offensive, in a way where our intelligence isn't bewildered, in a way that is more likely to lead to some positive outcome. But it means removing ourselves or moving ourselves from being in an offended state of mind to an unoffended state of mind. We must learn to rid ourselves of anger, not push it down, not vent it, but rid ourselves of it, which requires becoming an expert in forgiveness. And as the heart becomes clearer and clearer, as we become more attached to Krishna and his devotees, as our real self comes through more and more, we start to realize that there's not a lot that will offend us so much here, because really our pleasure isn't from here. We start to gain so much pleasure from our bhakti, from our devotion, and start to see others in who they are to Krishna and who they are to us, really genuinely, that the things that previously offended us don't really do anything.
I don't know if I understood you properly when I thought I heard you say that when we take offense about something that was done to us, that's even more harmful than when we take offense to when somebody does something to someone that we hold dear.
No, I don't think I said that.
Oh, okay.
But see, the thing is, even if someone offends someone that we hold dear, we can, in protecting them, we don't have to engage in offensive behavior.
Right.
It is quite possible, it's very possible to protect others without being offensive. It's very possible to protect others without coming from a position of anger. In fact, when we come from a position of anger, whether we're protecting ourselves or other people, we are least likely to engage in proper speech and proper behavior. Look at, again, coming back to Ambarish Maharaj's example, he was the ruler of the entire planet. When Ambarish Maharaj tried to attack him with a fire demon to kill him, he didn't even flinch. He didn't try and explain himself with words. He had such trust in Krishna that he just stood still because he knew that whatever's coming to me is Krishna's arrangement. If Krishna allows it, it's his Krishna's arrangement. There's a good reason for it, and I trust him completely. And so, what does Krishna do? He sends Sudarshan Chakra to protect him. Ambarish Maharaj is unoffendable, and yet he can rule the entire planet. He didn't have to get angry to make wise decisions. In fact, if you read the descriptions of the planet when Ambarish Maharaj was in power, not only was everybody happy and not needing anything, but everybody was accustomed to practicing deep levels of spiritual life because he made it so easy for them to do that. That's how he ran his kingdom. So we see from his example that this modern thing that we have to get angry before we do something about a situation. No, anger is a very low level motivational force. Compassion is a much higher level motivational force, and it leads to better outcomes. So, I mean, the point of, I guess, the conclusion I'm coming to is let's take a leaf out of Krishna's book. If we feel offended, do what he does, take a step back.
Yeah, you see, the whole motive behind my question was I just wanted to get to the fact that, or the idea that when Krishna responds to our offensive behavior, it's not that his unconditional love for us has diminished, isn't it?
Absolutely. Krishna does everything out of love. Even when he steps back, it's out of love.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hare Krishna, Gail.
Hare Krishna.
Kumari.
Wow. Well, there's no time left. But I have a question from the last time you were on. And anyway, then there's so many things that you spoke about that have really spoken to our community Afterglow all week. And I really appreciate you. Maybe next time you're back, I've just been really playing with, since the last time you're on, this kind of idea of being in our imagination or like our way of worship in the mind, and this more playful way of knowing Krishna or thinking of his 3 lines on his neck like a conch shell during Kartik. And I just would love to hear you speak more on those topics, because I think they could really help me in my devotional life.
I would love to next time you have me back. Maybe we can do so, or we can have some other session on one of Krishna's pastimes, especially since it is Kartik.
Yes. I hope so.
We have a spiritual warrior community where we have regular classes and retreats. So, if Ananda Bihari Prabhu is okay with it, if we have his permission, we can share the link to join with you.
Lotus feet of our spiritual master, the only way to which we can attain to the divine service. I bow to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean, attain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified. In other words, emanating from the lotus stone. Passion to the lotus feet is the reflection that fulfills all the time. It opens my dark eyes and fills my heart with trust and knowledge. He is my Lord. On him, ecstatic rain emanates by the ignorance of struggle. Vedic scriptures sing in this character. Our spiritual master, devotion and mercy, and the poor of the Lord, and master the Lord. The master be graceful on us, give us the shade of his feet. May the spirit all over this big world. Take shelter from his feet, Srila Prabhupada, he,
Welcome to the Afterglow. Chiti Shakti Devi, please put that link in the chat if you haven't already.
We can't hear you.
Prabhu, if I send it to you on WhatsApp, are you able to share it, or do I need to put it in the chat here?
Both, please. Please do both.
Okay, I don't know if I can put it on the chat here because it's on my phone, so I can.
Okay,
I can
put
share
it in the WhatsApp group then. No problem.
So I'm going to send it to you on WhatsApp, and then you can share it with devotees. Is that okay? Okay, fine. That's fine. I can stay till 1:15. So if there are a couple, I think there were a couple more hands up. If they wanted to share their thoughts, then I'm happy to stay.
Go ahead, dear devotees. This is your chance.
Yeah, Ananda Vihara Prabhu, your audio is really quiet.
Dear devotees, please go
there we
ahead.
go. So we got you.
Ask your questions.
Has she seen Ram?
Yeah, Ram is here. He's
Yeah,
over
has she seen him and blessed him?
here.
Narottam Nitai Prabhu, Hare Krishna, you wanted to.
I wanted to just ask, how important is it? I mean, it's just like a mute question, but like, how important is it to understand the 10 offenses and to avoid them, and just like our daily interactions with devotees, because it's so important, like I don't know. I try to tell myself that just try to learn from the Srila Prabhupada and the gurus, and not be in a position of being critical of others, um, because I'm not in that position. I haven't been given that position, to criticize or correct or anything like that. So, like, I guess my question is, like, that leads me to the 10 offenses, but then, like, how can we, like, really understand the meaning of all the 10 offenses, I guess. That's my question. Yeah, maybe it's
Yeah.
really deep. I don't know.
I mean, the answer to that question could be 10 sessions long, but I'm going to try and answer it in a minute. See, if we look at the 10 offenses and you distill them down to the essence of all 10 of them, it boils down to, and this is something that Haridas Thakur says, Srila Prabhupada says, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, and Krishna himself says that there's two things which have a massive impact on the way we chant and the way we progress in our bhakti. And that is, and it seems to be the root of everything else. These two problems is inattention and criticism. And if you really study the 10 offenses, they fall under these two banners. Okay. So disobeying the orders of the spiritual master. It's very easy to disobey when you're criticizing, blaspheming the Vedic scriptures or anything in pursuit of Vedic knowledge. There you go. That's criticism there. So if we remember that the holy name isn't just a mantra, it's not a representation of Krishna. It is Krishna himself. So we're actually dealing with a person. And so when we look at the 10 offenses in that way, what are the 10 things that upset this person? It's more like we're trying to understand a person. See, yes, there are no hard and fast rules to chanting. What does that mean? There's no fixed way of chanting that is going to get you success, because bhakti is independent and causeless. Causeless doesn't just mean the the benefit outweighs, the benefit does not, or what we get from causelessness is we're not qualified for it. But it also means that you can't ascribe one particular cause leads to a particular effect. And that's reflected in the independence of bhakti and the mercy of the holy name. So if we remember that the 10 offenses are more about what is it that this person, Krishna, and actually the supreme personalities of Godhead, because if we look at the Mahamantra, that's Radharani, Krishna, and Balaram, what is it that they don't like us to do? Then what we're really understanding is that, yes, there's no hard and fast rules with chanting. It doesn't matter what time you chant, it doesn't matter how clean you are, aren't clean, but there are principles around chanting that make the conversation and approaching these personalities much more easy, favorable, and likely to lead to a deeper connection. And they are built on the principles of relationship. Attentiveness in relationship leads to more affection. Affection leads to more attachment. And through attachment, what happens naturally is you always think of that person and you never forget them, which is the goal. Krishna says throughout, always think of me, never forget me. So, and not criticizing. Why set the person you love on fire? Or anyone that they're connected to? Why set any of them on fire? So if we think of the 10 offenses as 10 things that this person who I want to recover my relationship with, who comes close to me through his name, these are things he doesn't like me doing, then it becomes very easy. And also another thing I find helpful is when you study the 10 offenses, flip them. Instead of don'ts, turn them into do's. So disobeying the order of the spiritual master is an offense. But what attracts mercy? Obeying the orders of the spiritual master. Criticizing the Vedic literature or any literature in pursuance of it is an offense. But what gets mercy? Glorifying Vedic literature, following Vedic literature, any literature in pursuance of it. Misinterpreting the holy name? Don't misinterpret it. Understand, study the holy name. What is Krishna trying to teach me? What is he trying to show me? What does Shastra say? So many things. Don't be inattentive. Our mind doesn't like being told don't. But if you tell the mind do, then it cooperates a bit more. So, a lot more. So, and also break it down into small steps, because the mind can't think far ahead. Okay, otherwise it gets lost in the future. You give it small steps with everything we do. So yes, the 10 offenses are very important for us to understand because they're 10 things that Krishna tells us. You want to show me your love? These are the things I don't like. So then do the things he does like, which are the opposite.
Do is my takeaway.
Do,
Thank you.
yes, yes, not do.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Krishna Kumar, you're the finisher, please.
Oh, I mean, I could just listen to you talk for hours. I wouldn't ever want to interrupt, but there is like an elephant in the room in this verse.
Go ahead. I love elephants in the room.
No, in the verse, in the purport, you know, like the whole idea of transgender dressing like a woman. So I was just wondering if you could speak something to that. I mean, obviously everything you spoke was like all the do's, but
Yes.
I just wonder that part, like,
because
our world is so complex.
Yeah, I had a feeling someone might raise that because when I was reading this, and I read the purport a few times to really try and understand what is being said here. And if I'm completely honest, I mean, and I'm just telling you also from my clinical background, I worked for a significant period of time in gender reassignment services. And just reading this, plus having read other things that are in our text, first of all, off the bat, I want to say that our texts, Vedic scriptures, are very inclusive. They talk about third gender, they talk about Tritiya, third gender, and the roles they have in society, and it's all very accepting, and then they're never blocked off from spiritual advancement. This particular purport, I don't think speaks to transsexuality or transgender, anything like that. I think all Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was highlighting is that because Samba's not dressed as a woman because he feels that way or wants to look that way or feels he's a female. It's nothing to do with that. He's dressing up like that purely to take the mick and mock the brahmanas. So when Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is speaking to, these men are being dressed in women's clothes, he's talking about nothing to do with transsexuality or transgender. What he's saying is, this mockery of the brahmanas by Samba hiding his real identity, because he's not coming out as someone who's transgender or transsexual. He's hiding his real identity to mock someone. He's saying this is like a mockery of a spiritual advancement, because Sahajism, where people pretend to be gopis, right? They dress up as gopis and they pretend to be in Krishna's Leela, like as if they've got pure devotion. He's saying this makes a mockery of pure devotional service. And he says, look, just like Krishna arranges for the Yadus to be killed from inside, right? They destroy each other because they've done this, right? Because Samba did this. So in the same way, Krishna arranges that people who are Sahajias, who falsely take on the dress of the gopis, he fills their hearts with lusty desires so that it's easy to sift them out from an actual devotee, right? Somebody at Raganuga Bhakti doesn't change their external dress, even if they're in a male body and their eternal form is of a manjari. If somebody's in a female body and the eternal form is a cowhead boy, they don't start dressing like a cowhead boy. So what he's saying is again, that destruction from the inside out. So, and then back to that point of when you criticize devotees, it destroys your bhakti from the inside out. It's not always apparent. By the time it's apparent outside, that means a lot of stuff's been going on inside long before that. So that's all I just wanted to highlight, that this actual verse and purport is actually nothing to do with transgender.
You did great.
Okay.
You did perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chiti Shakti. Thank you for staying over time with us.
Okay.
We hope you will not lose your employment as a clinical psychiatrist. There's so many craziness out there. Thank you for reassigning us to our true identity as devotees of Krishna by such a wonderful class. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Okay.
Hare Krishna, everybody. My love to you all. Hare Krishna.
Can we let Drishti speak? Drishti, just recite the
Oh.
mantra. We don't have the time, please. Recite the mantra and that'll be it for today. Drishti R, please.
Hare Krishna.
Oh, the whole thing, Drishti.
Am I asking a question, or is it?
No, I think he wants
you
you to. No, I think he wants you to recite the whole Maha Mantra as the
Yes.
goodbye for the session.
Yes.
Okay. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, everybody.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.